Hi guys! So this is my tutorial on how to mod Age of Mythology Retold using my tool CryBarEditor. This is my first tutorial that I'm actually voicing, so I may be a little bit nervous and I might speak too quickly, so I'm sorry for that. What we will do in this video is just the modding basics. We will create a new mod, we will modify a Greek villager, modify their stats, the display name, icon, and voice. This should teach you the basics of how to do pretty much anything else. Modding is honestly just playing around and experimenting stuff, but if you ever get stuck, I do recommend visiting the official Age of Empires Discord. There's a very nice AOM modding community there, so yeah, if you have any questions, do go there. But alright, I'm gonna stop wasting your time and just get straight into it. So modding works like this. A game uses certain game files, and a mod can overwrite those game files. Now we can see these game files if we open Steam, go to Properties of the game, and click on Browse Local Files. This should open up the game's main directory, and this folder right here, the game folder, this is where all the game files are, at least the main ones that we can mod. Anything in this folder, we can technically override with our mod. To create a mod, go to your users folder, Games, Age of Mythology, then your user's ID, Mods, and into the local one. Here we can create a new folder, name it whatever you want, and this is your mod. Whatever files that we put in here will attempt to override the file in the game base folder that is at the same relative path. However, there's a problem, and that is that a lot of the files are hidden inside bar archives. These are something like zip archives, except you have to use a special tool to open them. And well, one such tool is my CryBarEditor, but you can use any tool that supports viewing them. As long as you can view the contents of them, that's good enough. So let's download CryBarEditor. The tool is open source and available in GitHub, so right here, you can download it by going to the releases and downloading the latest release. This is for Windows, but I did implement it in .NET and Avalonia, so if you want it, you could compile it for yourself for Linux or Mac OS or wherever else you want to use it, but I digress. You download it, you unzip it, extract it to some folder, you're done. You don't have to install it, it just works. Besides my tool, I also recommend having a text editor that supports syntax highlighting. So like Visual Studio Code or Notepad++ or whatever else you want. This is optional. As long as you have a notepad, it's fine, but it will make it a lot easier to read all those XML documents. Once you start CryBarEditor, the first thing you should select is two things: your game base folder and your mods base folder. For now, let's just select the game base folder. By doing this, the editor can make it really easy to copy files between them. So yeah, let's select the game base folder like so. This will automatically display all the files in the left panel. So if you click on any file here, it will automatically preview its contents on the right side. And of course, the main feature is if you select any bar file on the left side, you will see the contents of the bar archive on the second panel. So these are all the files that are inside the bar file, and all of these files have a certain relative path. However, please note that each bar archive also has its own path. You can see the root path above. So whenever you want to overwrite a file, you also have to include that relative path, not just the file within. And that's about it. So let's make our first mod. So this is something you're going to learn as you mod more, but most of the data, the most important data, is in the data.bar file. So if we open the data bar and we find the proto file, this is where all the proto units are defined, aka pretty much everything in the game. So we want to modify villager Greek. So it's somewhere over here. And the best way to find it is just pressing Ctrl F and typing in villager. I mean, you're going to find it eventually. So here is the villager Greek definition, and if we want to modify any of these properties, we have to create the same file at the same relative path in our mod folder. So this would mean we would have to create a folder data, a folder gameplay, and the file proto.xml. We do just say proto.xml. We do not add the XMB next to it, because XMB is just the compressed version of it. But before we continue, let's first set the export directory, because we can see when you right click on a file, you don't get any options for exporting. That's because we have not yet set the export directory. The export directory should be your mod directory. So click on the button and select the folder of your mod. So this is where the files will be exported to, and the tool will automatically create all the missing subdirectories, so the relative path will be the same. Usually you want to click on Export Converted. This will export the proto.xml file by itself. It will decompress it and export just that. If you press the copy one, it will export the whole file as it is, the raw contents, the whole XMP file, which you probably don't want, but I have it there in case you want to debug something, like analyze something, doesn't matter. So for now, just export converted, and we will have the proto.xml file created on the right relative path in the mod. So let's start with something simple, like the villager display name. The display name ID is this string over here, but it doesn't say villager. So we first have to find where exactly does this string define the villager translation. For this, we can use the search tool. But beware that the search tool will search in the captured files that it sees. So right now it says we're searching in 16 captured files, which is not good. We want to search in all of them. So for now, let's close the search window and remove the filter on the left panel. So now that we see all the files, open the search again, and we should see we're now searching in 600 files. Copy it in, press search, and the search should begin. So you can already see the progress bar right there. I mean, the progress there, it's not a bar, but then you have the search results. And if you click on the button next to a result, it should open the file and highlight the match in the preview viewer. If we scroll down, we're going to start noticing translations. And right down there, we can see there's a villager translation. Also, what these results mean is the blue one is the actual match. The second line, the gray line, is in which file it was matched. And in case that file is a bar file, bar archive, the red one means which entry within it was it. So here it is. Here's the string. Here's the villager. So we just have to modify this. If we modify this, that's basically it. So let's find it in the second panel and let's try exporting it. Because this is a text file, it's not in any other weird format, we don't have to press converted, we can just do copy. We can just export a copy and it should work. This should now create a text file in your mod directory and just open it there. Just open that file and adjust the villager string to whatever you want. So because I lack imagination, I'm just gonna do villager 2. But if we go in game now and if we confirm that our mod is running in mod manager, and then start a game, if you press on a Greek villager, you should see the new name that we gave it. So the next thing we're gonna do is edit the icon. So we can see the icon path for the villager right over here, and we don't know where this is. We can see the path starts with resources, so you could try go into the game folder and find where this could be. We do know an image is part of the UI, and we can see now, oh, there's a file called UI resources. But in case you don't know where it is, we can once again utilize the search tool. We can put the icon in, add the .png at the end, and search. And it's gonna find a lot of stuff, also a lot of useless stuff, like from blob files. So this is why you can utilize the exclusion filter. You can add like star.blob, and it's gonna exclude all the blob files. We can also exclude multiple extensions by using comma. So if we want to exclude like string tables, we don't need that. We don't need text files. We can also exclude star.text. And now it should only show everything else, right? So we have the icon mentioned in the proto file. We have it mentioned in some other XML file. That's probably not it. And then we're going to see it mentioned, if we scroll down, we should see it mentioned in UI resources bar. And if we scroll down, we can see it's in the UI resources for K-bar and the UI resources regular bar. It's the last two results. So if we open them, we should be seeing them in the preview image. So the 4K version is obviously bigger. For our use case, what you just need to do is export one of them. And then, I mean, you can export both of them. But whenever you're editing the image, you can just use the same image in both of them. If you want to, it's going to work. So we're just going to do the copy again because it's a PNG. It's not compressed in any other way. And now you should see the file in the mod folder. So there's going to be two versions of the file. You can edit both of them. And I'm not going to be doing the editing in this video, but you can see from the image that it has transparency. The transparency is there for the theme color. So whatever is transparent, that's where the theme color is going to be put behind as a background. And at this point, that's basically it. You can modify this image, this icon, and it's going to work. So far, we changed a single icon for a villager and a string table. Now, one thing we have to be wary of is whenever we override files that affect multiple things. For example, string table contains all the strings in the game. If we override it, we're overriding it for everything. This means if an update comes out that changes the strings, or you're using any other mods that affect the strings, your mod is going to be overriding, all those new things, and you don't want that. Same way for the proto file. If you want to edit the villager stats, which we're going to do soon, you would usually override a proto file, but that would override everything. The proto file affects multiple things as it contains all the definitions of proto units in the game. So we don't want that. So this is where additive modding comes into play. It's a way to change files without completely overriding them. So you can create an additive mod for this. So you basically add to a file, you don't override it. Usually this means taking the file name and just adding the suffix _mods to it. And the content, if it's an XML file, in the content, you would usually also add the suffix mods to the root XML element. That's usually how it works. Now, the tool already has the option built in for most used files, such as proto, but technically, you can use this with almost anything. So you just have to try and see if it works. So now let's try modifying the villager itself. So let's open up the mods file that we created. And now inside here, we only need to modify the villager. So let's find the villager in the original proto XML file. So let's find it again. And there it is. And let's just copy this whole unit block. Let's just copy the whole thing. And we're gonna paste it in just like that. And this already works. This will look at the mod. The game will look at the mod. It will see the same unit name and it's gonna merge it. If we change the name to like Villager Greek 2, then it's gonna add a new unit. If it's the same name, then it's gonna merge it into the existing one. There's also ways you can modify how it's merged, if it should be merged, if it should be replaced, if it should be removed, if it should be added. Like all these details, I'm not going to go into everything in this video. You can check my documentation on the GitHub page, or you can just check the Discord. But for now, let's remove the things that we don't need. We are only interested in changing a few things, like how fast they're going to be trained, how many we can train. Instead of 100, we can go 500. Maybe also they can take 0 population space instead of 1. That would also be funny. We can also make them faster by changing the max velocity. We can also make their cost lower. So instead of costing 50 food, we can make them cost 10. And keep in mind, you can change anything here. You can change what they can build, how they're unlocked, like anything you want. So the next thing we also want to do is create an additive mod for the string table. Like we said before, we don't want to have a file that overrides multiple things at once. We only want to override the villager. So let's go to the string table again and let's create a mod file for it. Because this is not an XML file, it's a little bit different, but it still ends with mods. But in the content, it doesn't have any root elements. So we just put the line in that we want to change. And that's basically it. And now in game, we can see the villagers. They have the name Villager 2. They cost 10 food. They're also faster to train. You can see how quickly they go. They also walk faster. And they also cost 0 pop. So yeah, that works. And we did it with additive modding without actually needing to override the whole files like we did in the beginning. So please remember, whenever modifying files that affect multiple things, always prefer additive modding. And now finally, to change the voice of the villager. So first we go back to the Villager Greek proto-unit definition, and we're gonna see here that there's a sound set file, and it's called Villager Greek XML. Now you could search for this again, but I already know that all the sound set files are defined in the sound bar archive. The sounds themselves, they're WAV files, but they're kind of compiled into these fmod banks, but you don't have to worry about that. We're only worried about overriding them. So here we can see the actual sound set definition for the Village Greek. And now I don't want to get too much into this, but you can very clearly see that the villager has many types of sounds. The sound it makes when it's selected, the sound it makes when it's acknowledged, the sound it makes when it grunts, when it dies, when it spawns. And inside here, you could just, just straight up provide the sound set file, or you could use some sort of a logic. Now, different units have different sort of logic. A villager has variation logic because it has a female and a male variation. That's why it has a variation logic. So the first one will be used for the male one, for the second one will be used for the female one. But if you go first to something like Hoplite, where there's just one variation, there's not going to be any variation logic. But you have stuff like target logic, which changes the sound based on who the target was. So if we look at the Hoplite, the acknowledge has a target logic, which means if the default one will be the acknowledge sound set, but if it's an enemy that you've clicked on, then it's going to be a different sound set. Now let's go back to the villager and let's find out where this sound set is defined. Like, I want to know which files, which sound files are actually part of this sound set, right? It's a set of sounds. So let's select the name and let's use the search tool and let's find it. Immediately you're gonna see it's part of the Greek sound set .soundset file. It's at the top. So here we can find the select, right, that we are looking for, and we can see what sounds it comprises from. It has male select 1 wav, you get it. Male select 2, male select 3, male select 4. So technically we have to override these in the same relative path. However, I noticed that doing this with WAV files, it doesn't work. It does work with MP3 files, but for WAV files for existing units, you are required to make a separate sound set file and define your own sound set. We can reuse the same things if we wanted to, but anyway, just follow my lead. First, let's hear what we are even replacing. So let's go to the fmod bank, and I know for a fact that the Greek one has the Greek sounds, and in here we can search the events. These are not files, by the way, these are fmod events. And here we can find the male select sounds. And the thing is, it has 4 different variations. So it's going to play a different variation every time we click play. So if we do right click and play, we can hear different variations. So this is the thing that we want to replace. We want to replace this. So let's export a few variations of it. You have to click it multiple times to get different ones. But yeah, once we have it, we can confirm that these are the files, then you can modify them. But in our case, well, let's check if they work. They do. In our case, we are going to record our own voice and use that one to replace all of these variations. So yeah, you could try renaming them to be consistent. And this would usually work for MP3 files. Renaming them, making sure they have the same name as in the sound set file, and this usually works. However, it did not work for WAV files. Either way, let's open up. I'm using Audacity, and I'm going to use that to record my voice. Etimos. Let's normalize the audio levels. But yeah, you then have to make sure to export it as WAV. And I renamed it to myselect1 WAV and put it in the same one. I deleted the old ones, by the way. The next thing we need to do is override the XML file. This is needed because otherwise it doesn't work for the WAV files. So let's override the XML files and let's make up new sound sets. So for the select and the acknowledge, I just decided to add 2 to them. Then I created a sound set file. You have to make it in the correct location. And in the sound set file, I specified which files to use. So to summarize, you need a sound set file with any name in the sound location. That one defines the sound set and which files it uses. And then you need the sound set definition file, which is the XML, where you specify which sound sets to use. So in the end, it ended up working. So as you can see, modding is just a lot of playing around and experimenting until it works. There's probably some other things I don't know about and that you just have to figure it out by yourself. So here are the sounds in game. Etymos, 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 etymos. So one last thing I want to say before I go off is make sure to also read the documentation that the official devs have gave us. It's in the game folder. You have the bank documentation. You have a lot of useful stuff there for modding, for debugging, for scripting, especially how to set up your user configuration file so you get errors. Like, I really recommend turning on the data validation. That will throw an error if you did something incorrectly. It's very useful when you make typos and you don't know what it is. But there's also other stuff you can do to make your life easier. There's also documentation there on how to import models and animations. I haven't even checked those yet. And there's more documentations on my GitHub page. I'm not sure if some of it may be outdated. I'm not really updating it that much. But yeah, I hope this video helped, and good luck modding.